Hi again, everyone. Patrick Pfingsten here. I write the Illinoize political newsletter, which you can read every day at theillinoize.com, Illinoize. Welcome back to our almost sort of kind of weekly podcast where we're talking about the last 6 or 8 weeks of the legislative session. They're scheduled, of course, to adjourn at the end of May, like they are every year. And here we are at the end of the first full week of April. And not a lot has happened yet, especially on any of the big ticket issues. And there are a lot of question marks still out there. The House was in this week. Everybody's in Springfield next week, both the House and Senate. We've kind of had this weird little back and forth where the House is in 1 week, the Senate's in 1 week, and they haven't really been in together much this spring. That'll change in May, but they'll have both chambers in next week. So we got a little perspective from the House today as to big issues out there and what to expect over the final 7 weeks of the legislative session. It's going to be a great pleasure to have on the show today Republican Representative Dan Ugaste from Geneva in the suburbs. He's one of Representative or Leader Tony McCombie's leadership team, and he's been heavily involved in property taxes in that issue. So we'll get his perspective from the Republican side. Then on the Democratic side, we'll talk to Assistant Majority Leader Jay Hoffman, a Democrat from Swansea down in the Metro East, one of the top leaders under Speaker Chris Welch. And we'll talk to him about those big issues and then how they handle and how they anticipate handling the budget mess over the final 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the legislative session. So a couple of interviews for you back to back here in our program today. I hope you enjoy both. We'll start with Representative Dan Ugaste. And we're starting with the Republican because we're recording with him first. Okay, we're not picking sides or anything. It's just how it goes. And we're doing this linear. Okay, just deal with it. Dan Ugaste, representative from Geneva up in the western suburbs, joins us from the State House. Representative, here we are, early April. The legislature's done essentially nothing at this point other than fight over what the state sandwich should be. It seems like we're really prioritizing the big stuff. Hey, are you frustrated at this point? Are you annoyed at this point? What's your feeling right now?
So right now, the level of frustration is a bit more than what I'd say it normally is. Two reasons. One, here another year trying to present bills to help the people of the state of Illinois. And once again, many can't get called from committee, can't even get out of rules. And to me, that's a real problem. But also this year, we have a very different type of calendar. And because of that, everyone seems to be rushing through and they're jamming things through at record pace. It seems that at least they're trying to. We're doing our job on our end, but it's creating extra work in short periods of time and just multiple committees scheduled over periods of days. One of my committees is actually met 3 times in the last 2 days. So it's a lot and it's a bit much, but I think they're working on making it a little more workable for all of us. So that's my understanding, at least.
All right, so we'll talk maybe what we expect over the next 6-7 weeks to the end of session here in a few minutes. I want to hit on a couple of the big issues that are out there as we record this on Thursday morning. The first one that seems to have sucked all the oxygen out of the State House this spring is the fight over a stadium deal for the Bears. And they're of course threatening to move to Indiana. There's a stadium deal over there with $1 billion and a pony. They're seeking tax certainty, property tax certainty. Your former colleague Mark Batnick had estimated $180 million a year property tax bill if they were to build the facility there. There's still infrastructure questions. There's still what's going to happen to the $500 million of existing debt on the Soldier Field renovation from 24 years ago. And not to mention the homeowner property tax issue, which I know you think is part of the conversation too, and we'll get to that. What is the Republican position right now on what the state should do with the Bears and the pilot bill and infrastructure and the Soldier Field debt?
So I can't say that there's a specific Republican position that we're taking as a caucus. What I can say in general is that we're all in line, that anything done to keep the Bears, and I think to a person we'd all like to keep them. There may be a few members, though, that don't care much one way or another. I couldn't tell you. But we all want it done in a way that doesn't force extra taxes on other people in the state of Illinois, whether that is on the property taxpayers near the where the project's being looked at, as was discussed in the mega project bill that was initially passed through committee a few weeks back, or if it is through some other means that the supermajority, the Democrats, decide to come up with that would just cause taxes to go up on other taxpayers in the state. We aren't interested in that. The people in taxes. So while we're willing to work with the Bears and we completely understand why they want tax certainty on property taxes going forward because of the amount they'd be looking to pay and it just going up from there. We definitely are willing to work on that with them, but we need tax relief for other people too.
That to me sounds like a position that essentially boils down to we're willing to talk, but we don't care if you go to Indiana in the meantime.
That's not that we don't care if they go to Indiana. I want them to stay here. I don't want them to go to Indiana at all. But it's not at any cost. We can't just say everyone else in the state is going to pay for the Bears to stay here. That's not the way to approach it. They're a business. They're willing to build their own stadium. They're just looking for some certainty on what they're going to pay in taxes so that they aren't run out of business by runaway property taxes, which have been an issue here in Illinois for a very long time, and the party in control has refused to address.
But this is there are two other parts to this, right? Wrigley Field has a super low property tax bill. Soldier Field has Soldier Field and U.S. Cellular Field have no property tax bill because they're state owned. But United Center has a low property tax bill. So shouldn't, if there's going to be a standard for everybody, shouldn't the Bears at least get some sort of deal that would be similar to what the Bears or Bulls/Blackhawks got?
Well, and that I'm saying they should get some relief. I'm not disagreeing with all of what you're saying there. They should get some relief because property taxes would be way too high for them to build a brand new stadium and operate within the state of Illinois. Completely on board with that. But what that looks like, how it comes about, and it certainly can't come at the expense of neighboring taxpayers where they end up having to pay more because of the relief being given. And there are ways to do that. We've demonstrated. We've laid out ways on how to do that. You can do that. Give the Bears the relief they need so they stay in Illinois because we want them here in Illinois. But at the same time, make certain it's fair to everyone else in the state.
So the governor last week or the week before, I forget the exact date that he said it now, but essentially took a shot at Republicans who are bringing up the property tax issue and calls for reform, essentially alleging that Republicans don't understand that property taxes are a local issue and not a state issue. But anyone with any clue knows that the property tax reform would have to come from the legislative level. So I guess one, do you have any response to what I would categorize as a pot shot from the governor? And two, from a legislative perspective, what should be done about property taxes?
Sure. There's a whole long list of things we could do for property tax. As far as what the governor said, you know what? I'm not going to take a shot back at him. He made his statement. It's wrong. We all know it's wrong. What I'm willing to do is put forth what we can do together, what we can work on. And you know what? He can take a victory lap on it too when it's all said and done, because it's a win-win for everyone. But mostly it's a win for the people of the state of Illinois if we address the issue at a state level, which is what we can do. He made the statement, you can talk to your local governments. Well, you can talk to them, but we still have the controls. We can do things. We can put caps in place if that's what some people want to do. We could put forth bills like I mentioned. We formed a property tax relief commission. There's quite a few members in the House that have joined it. We set out, look, what we could do is make sure there are no bond rollovers or backdoor referendums, they're sometimes referred to, where a referendum will occur. The local unit of government will bond out and borrow the money, and as they're paying it back, they'll just roll over the bond rather than going back to taxpayers with another referendum if they want to keep spending that type of money. We should have referendums only appear on the general election ballots. They should never appear on primary ballots or consolidated elections. They should appear when the voters are most engaged in the process and you get the most direct answer as to whether or not the voters in your local area want a property tax increase. There's my House Bill 9, which could provide massive amounts of tax relief. I believe you and I have even discussed this before. It could have provided almost $3.5 billion of property tax relief throughout the state this past year without raising a single other tax. There's no need to do that. And there's many other answers, and we're going to be coming out with them in this conference before the end of session in time that they could be passed before the budget's passed and give the people of the state of Illinois the help they need. Because you know what? We need to make life more affordable for the people in the state of Illinois. You know, the governor's talking about it, but we're looking to do something about it.
Let's be frank, though, right? That the main driver of property taxes is schools, right? That's half of our property tax bill.
Correct.
And you know, the governor made the statement that they've increased funding to local schools by $2.5 billion since the EBF was signed into law by his predecessor. So he's taking credit for something Rauner did, which is interesting. But even that 300-ish million a year, which they haven't been fully funding to the 350 million level that they expected to for years, you know, isn't distributed equally. Is you know, it's distributed by this formula that is, you know, certainly, I think some would argue more Chicago public school friendly, more suburban friendly than downstate friendly. And it's essentially a drop in the bucket when we're talking about the billions and billions of dollars in property taxes that are collected in this state every year. So to shift that burden away from property taxes, essentially it means, and if you disagree with this, I'm happy to hear it. It essentially means that the state would have to come up with billions of extra dollars, whether it's new revenue or cuts from other places, which is the argument that some Democrats are making for this millionaire surcharge that they want to put on the ballot in November. How do you come up with the money to make a realistic shift away from property taxes into something else?
Okay. Let me lay out for you House Bill 9, which I mentioned a little bit ago, and I'll tell you exactly where you get to this. House Bill 9 requires the state to set aside 25% of its budget and do two things with it. First, make our pension payments, which we're obligated to make by law. And as of right now, that's 19.6%, and we're already making that payment. So I'm not asking for 25% new come out of the budget. The 19.6 is there. We're already making it. So now we're looking for about 5.4% of the budget. If I remember my numbers right. I've been trying to get this out for a long time. I may have my numbers slightly off, but they're really close. Anyhow, that amount, if we were to take it and put it into a grant program for school districts and divide the money we send out to the various districts, it'd be about $3.5 billion this year, would have gone out on a per pupil basis to each school district. And for every dollar they receive, they then must, under the law, lower their property tax levy. There's your property tax relief. So what does that mean in the government equation, the state budget equation, and where that money comes from? Well, here's what it means. If we took that $3.5 billion and said, okay, where's it come from? We're spending, and it levels the same as halfway between fiscal year 2024 and 2025. We can do that. This isn't some massive, drastic cut that would take us back to spending in 2015 or anything. It's the same spending level we were at in the last few years. There's places to find that money. We could do it. We should be doing it. And we need to look at that and it's property tax relief like this going forward, because the people and the businesses in the state of Illinois need help. We're losing population, we're losing businesses without it.
So the other issue that has certainly spiked in recent days is gasoline prices in the state. I was in the city and suburbs this weekend. It was over $5 in the city, $5 a gallon in the city. It was $4.70 in the suburbs. I know it's pushing $4 in many places downstate. There are calls in some places for the governor to either suspend or reduce the gas tax or the gasoline sales tax. Remember, we're double dipping on gas taxes in this state. But if you do, suspend or reduce the gasoline taxes, it either means less revenue into the state or less into the road fund, which, for downstaters is already, being rated for Chicago mass transit, which I've referred to as literal highway robbery in the past. Should there be a temporary suspension or reduction of the gasoline, either the gas tax or the gasoline sales tax?
I'm on board with the gasoline sales tax. I'm not saying the gas tax. That's how we fund our road projects and our infrastructure projects. So I don't know that we need to do that. We could always look at it, but let's look at the sales tax. That's the tax on the tax that was talked about by Leader Spain yesterday. And if we do that, what we're doing is we're easing the burden on our drivers, the people who have to purchase the gas, by a percentage, because that tax is a percentage of the total price of the gasoline. And if we actually have been taking in more money on the higher gasoline prices, we should be able to stave that off and provide people some relief during these times when they're paying so much for gasoline right now. And that's an area where we definitely need to look to help people.
So we're recording this the morning of April 9th. So when you guys come back next week, we'll have 7 weeks, I guess, the final stretch. And as you know, the tradition dictates nothing happens until May. None of the issues we've talked about already are settled. We're seeing with the gas tax and other economic indicators, there are some concerns about maybe the trap door falling out under the economy, and that means serious reductions in potentially in state revenue for FY27. We don't know how much budget negotiation is happening at this point. Republicans haven't really been at the table much the last couple of years. Walk me through your expectations. You can add your hopes in if you'd like, but how do you think this gets handled over the next few weeks?
I think it's going to largely probably be handled much the way you indicated, Patrick. I don't know that we're facing the economy coming out from under us. You indicated that's a possibility. Every indication I'm seeing, other than the price of gasoline and a few surcharges going on things, everything seems pretty strong right now. Everyone will keep watching that because that is important to us. It's important to us as a state. But looking at what we're doing as a state and what will move forward, look, bills are going to pass. They're going to come back and forth between the House and the Senate right now. There will be some things. But as you indicated, with the way the majority party has done things since I've been here for 8 years, is it all comes down to those last few weeks. And that's where all the big bills are going to move. And that's when I think we'll see the mega project deal, the Bears Stadium, however you want to look at the pilot bill, actually come into play and actually have something worked out. That's my guess. I'm not in those discussions, so I don't know how far along they are, but that's the way that usually plays out. As far as, there's talk about an energy bill that may be a cleanup on what they've done recently. And if that happens, I'm sure that's going to come out at that time as well. And of course, the budget. The budget's always the big piece, and the revenue. And my hope is, unless we're reducing people's taxes, that we leave revenue alone. And again, we're going to present ideas for people in the conference, from the Property Tax Relief Conference, to lower people's property taxes. My hope is we could possibly look and see, is there anywhere we could save on state taxes as well? But either way, we need to try and help provide relief to the people of the state of Illinois and make life more affordable. But that's what we're going to see at the end of May. And I think you're absolutely right about the timing of it. It's just the way it's handled.
It's hard enough for Republicans to get things done right now in the best of situations, right? You've got a 78-40 supermajority Democrats in the House, and obviously the governor has been not publicly very accepting of working with Republicans these days. There are some splits in your caucus, and we're not going to get into the campaign stuff since you're on state property and on state time. But certainly we all saw what happened in a couple of primaries in the spring, and it isn't a secret that there are some fights internally there. Are Republicans in the fight? Are they ready for the fight, or are you guys just trying to get through this session?
No, we're in the fight and we're ready for it. That's in part why this conference came forward with its ideas, because look, we're in our best position to get something for the people of the state of Illinois probably since I've been here. So this is why we're putting it forth at this point, drawing our line in the sand and saying, you're going to need our help, is our understanding, to get this mega project bill through. That's wonderful. We want to help. We want to keep economic growth going in Illinois. We want to keep the Bears here in Illinois, but we want to help the people of the state of Illinois, and we need to be helping them, not just some, not just a few developments, but all people. So we need to be driving that forward. You know, we haven't been included in the budget talks. We're ready to help. We have answers. We have solutions. As our leader always says, Leader McCombie always says, we have solutions for the problems Illinois is facing. All you have to do is talk to us. And we keep putting them out there, and we will keep putting them out there. We are ready for this. You know, we're talking with them. We're trying to work something through and get things done to help with the crime problem within the state. There's quite a few issues. We're engaged, we're working, and we're going to be ready to go forward. And as far as our caucus, you know what? We are pulling in one direction to promote the Republican values for more affordable Illinois, fewer taxes, smaller government, and we're all moving in the same direction.
Representative Dan Ugaste, Republican from Geneva, our guest on the podcast this week. Representative, thanks for the time. Thanks for sitting down and talking through these issues with us, and we'll see you at the State House soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. From the Democratic perspective, in our show today, we're pleased to welcome Representative Jay Hoffman, a Democrat from Swansea down in the Metro East, from his office at the State House. Representative, here we are in early April, almost mid-April, and obviously the procedural stuff, getting bills through committees and get them into second reading, it all takes time. But it seems like we're kind of, as usual, just not doing anything until May. Is this a Democrat problem of just, we're not going to handle the tough stuff until later, or was it an election issue with the primary there? Why are we always waiting so long to do stuff?
Well, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've served under Republican administrations and under Democratic administrations where there were Republican governors and there were Democratic governors. I've also served in the House for a term when the Republicans were in control, and served for a long time when the Republicans controlled the Senate. So this really isn't anything new. The governor goes first. He is when I say he goes first, he proposes a budget, and under our Constitution, he's mandated to go first. Now that budget is just the proposal, and now we are doing the arduous work. It's hard work, going through line by line those budgets in all of our appropriations committees. They've been meeting, and that takes some time. I think human beings, by their very nature, sometimes need a deadline for them to really get after it. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to do it, do some of the harder work earlier this year. The real work really begins in May. This is just setting the table for us, getting down to the hard items and the negotiations that's going to happen, not only with the budget, but also with other bills.
You mentioned the governor's budget proposal, which has, of course, mixed reactions depending on party. But one of the things that seems to kind of be crossing party lines in concern is the LGDF issue, the local government distributive fund. and obviously I'm sure you've had mayors on your call sheet for the last
Mhm.
couple of months,
Right.
that they're concerned that the governor's, he's keeping the number flat, but the share is reducing, which, it was originally 10% in the deal made, in the late 60s, prior to even the new Constitution, even before you were around. And, and now we're talking about a share that's
Patrick, it
going to
hasn't
drop.
been that long.
Hasn't been
So
that
you
long,
got
no.
no.
But now that
I
share is,
mean,
going to drop to,
I didn't serve with Lincoln. I did not serve with Lincoln, despite
didn't
what some
serve with
people
Lincoln,
say.
but maybe Grant. But the LGDF share would drop to something to almost 6.25%, almost 6.25%, under this proposed budget. Are you concerned about what it would mean for local governments in your district and around the state?
Well, since I've been elected, I have been a huge proponent of the local government distributed fund and adequately funding it. I think it's so vitally important that we continue to provide funds, not only funds to school districts, but also funds to local government, because that helps keep a lid on some of the property taxes. And people right now are having a difficult time, as I know, and we all know, with higher property taxes. And this, by taking away money from the local government distributed fund, the local governments are going to figure out how they're going to pay for, uh, whether it's capital improvements or trash pickup, or the list goes on and on. And that puts upward pressure on property taxes, which I don't like seeing. I've been a proponent of things like, a year ago we provided for over $400 million additional local roads from the Illinois Department of Transportation. So I think that we need to make sure that we're adequately funding the local government distributed fund, not only because it's important services that are direct to the citizens and the residents, but also it keeps a lid on the upward push for property taxes.
But I mean, certainly the concern here is that if their LGDF number is flat or goes down, and they build in that expectation of new tax increase every year, or new tax revenue every year, because the base always grows. But that means they're concerned that they've somehow got to find new ways to fund police and fire and public works, and pay pensions, which is a key component in trying to keep people on the workforce, and then they have to turn to either a property tax increase or a sales tax increase, because they don't have their own income tax in the state. So is this something that the governor should change course on to prevent further tax increases at the local level?
Well, I think that, as I indicated, the governor's office goes first. The one thing I do want to applaud the governor on is every year his proposal and ultimately the budget have been balanced budgets. I believe we've had 10 credit upgrades by credit rating agencies, which is huge for Illinois and is huge for the cost of us borrowing money or bond selling. So those are the positive things. Now we're in the time of the legislative session where we will begin that negotiations with the governor's office. I believe that we should make the local government distributed fund whole. That's not a criticism of the governor's proposal. It's just how I believe, and we'll work all of this through as we go through negotiating the budget and passing it by the end of May.
You've been involved in the pilot issue, from really the ground up, and it's sort of been hijacked as the Bears issue now, which we've talked about before. That they want the property tax certainty for Arlington Heights, and I don't know that a lot of people in the Metro East care about whether the Bears are in Chicago or Arlington Heights or Indiana or not, but
Right.
but certainly the pilot issue is a statewide question, and
Mhm.
and this has obviously sucked up a ton of energy in the state house this spring, and your caucus seems pretty divided on it. Do you believe, just in your position in leadership and as someone who knows how these things tend to shake out, do you think there's going to be a deal on this before the end of May?
Well, you make a great point. Pilot is payment in lieu of property taxes. That's what it is. Uh, Dozens of states already have this in place. And all it is really a mechanism statewide, not just for the Bears, but statewide, where if a large mega development is coming in, that you can sit down with the school districts, the local governments, and you can work out what the property tax burden is going to be and make it certain for the long period of time. What people are missing in this debate is this actually is empowering school districts more than they are otherwise, because they have to sign off on this, and they would have to say that the agreements are sufficient. But I think it's gotten lost in the mega project bill, which it really is, has gotten lost in the Bears discussion. It would be good for downstate. I can tell you that just an example. Recently, a very large development not only stayed in Madison County. It's the Veland. They make brass. And it's Veland Manufacturing. They brought and are consolidating their jobs all in that area. Well, there was some very difficult and intricate negotiations that DCO had to do with the local taxing districts in order to get that done. This is simply a vehicle and a framework that can be utilized so that you can negotiate with the mega project, with the manufacturer who's going to come into the area, and here's the vehicle that you can use under state law so that you can get an agreement on property tax payment going forward, so there'd be some certainty. But the taxing districts and the school district, who is the largest taxing body, would generally have to sign off on these things.
I don't know that we got to the back end of that question though. Is do you think your caucus can make a deal, right? Because I mean the speaker has the unofficial 60 vote threshold of Democrats to move anything to the floor. You've got 30 plus Democrats who are from the city of Chicago. You know the caucus dynamics better than I do. You're in the room and I'm not, though. If you want me in the room, I'm happy to sit in there like a fly on the wall. But if certainly it seems like it's going to be hard for you guys to get to 60 Democrats. Do you bring Republicans to the table to try and get this done? Is that, I guess the question is, how do you get it done?
Well, first of all, I think, and I know that the discussions, and I've been involved in some of them, the discussions are ongoing with how the pilot legislation is going to look statewide, how it would look, particularly if it were part of an agreement with the Bears. I think that what I do know from our caucus is they're very concerned about giving large sums of money to individuals who are billionaires to help build a stadium. So pilot is a way of property certainty. That's what it is. And whether we can ultimately come to an agreement, I think it depends on several things. First of all, there are a lot of needs throughout the entire state, whether you represent Arlington Heights, or whether you represent the city of Chicago, or whether you represent central or southern or southwestern Illinois. There are some other economic development tools that we have passed recently, including what's called STAR bonds, which are allowing incremental sales taxes to be used for mega developments. And there needs to be some tweaks to that. I personally, even though I don't represent Springfield, I think that there's a great need to have some Springfield development, and Senator Doris Turner and Representative Sue Cheer put some items forward that I think are vitally important as well. So the way I view it is not just passing something for the Bears, but let's look at globally if there's some type of economic development package we can all put together that can get 30 votes in our caucus, or 60 votes in our caucus, and 30 votes in the Senate.
The Republican argument essentially has been, hey, we're not opposed to a Bears deal here, but we need to take care of property tax reform for homeowners and business owners first. And that's obviously a really complicated question as to where does the money come from? How do you shift that burden, especially for schools, which make up half of our property tax bill, from property taxes to some other form of revenue, which, and maybe you can shed some light as to where you are on the millionaires surcharge, or bringing back the graduated income tax question. As you see the property tax question out there, the governor hasn't put a proposal forward. He sort of mocked Republicans for saying the state needs to do something about it. From your perspective, from House Dem's perspective, what should be done about property taxes?
Well, we have put together a working group, and it's continue to meet to come up with ideas of how to reform property taxes, make them more affordable, stop the upward pressure on property taxes. That is led by leader Gordon Booth, and I think she's very able, and they're continuing to look at the issue. Last year, we did increase the senior assessment freeze, and I would look to items such as that. I think right now, as we're dealing with these budgetary issues, that will be part and parcel of the entire budgetary discussion. And obviously, because I do believe it is a very important issue, it's going to be continually brought up, whether you're talking about the bears or other economic development tools, or the budget as a whole.
Do you have a preference on either the millionaire's tax or the graduated income tax? Do you want to see one of those on the ballot in November?
Well, the graduated income tax has been litigated, and the right or wrong, the voters have spoken and it lost. I think there would be a mistake to just rerun that campaign, and I think that you should listen to the voters. The issue of the millionaire's tax, I'm still looking at it, understanding it. I want to make sure whatever we do put on the ballot, number one, is going to create additional revenue for the state for important items. Number two, I think we got to be careful about driving individuals out of the state, moving their citizenship to other states because of our tax policies. Still, I think as a matter of fundamental fairness, just because of the way our tax system is set up in Illinois, the very rich should be paying their fair share, and because we are a flat tax system, and because of the deductions that they may have, and we run off the federal return, many times that's not the case.
You kind of took the question out of my mouth there. Is one of the arguments is that everyone's fleeing the state, and the numbers don't back that up. Population's not declining. Yeah. It's just not growing as quickly as we would like it to. And certainly a lot of those high income earners are all like in Naples these days. And certainly there would have to be a concern, right? Republican or Democrat, that more people in that position are just going to go find themselves a new tax shelter in Naples or Austin or somewhere that doesn't have an income tax like Illinois.
And that I think we need to think long and hard about that before we make the decision whether that's going to be on the ballot. We're going to have to make that decision fairly soon. And then the question becomes, especially within our caucus, if we do put it on the ballot and we're to pass, okay, what then are we going to use the surcharge of millionaires for? Is it going to be for property tax relief? Is it going to be for schools? Will it be for helping police training or stopping violence, or for other job and economic development infrastructure? So that's the question that we're having to work through as a caucus as well. Those are tough discussions, because you want to have an idea, if this revenue comes in, what can it be used for, and what is most useful, and can we use it to reduce property taxes, which I think would be very important.
I haven't been in your neck of the woods recently, so I don't know what gas prices have sprung up to down there, but up in the city and suburbs over the weekend, I saw it was over $5 in the city and $4.70 in the suburbs, and it's obviously spiked downstate too. This is obviously a short-term concern. We saw Indiana suspended its sales tax on gasoline. There are calls out there for Illinois to do something either with the gas tax or the additional sales tax. But one would mean less money for the road fund. One would mean less money for the general revenue fund, and both of those weigh on budgetary pressures. Should the legislature make some move on the gas tax or the gas sales tax?
I certainly would be willing to take a look at it on a temporary basis. We've done things like that before. been a few years. However, what's troubling is there isn't a heck of a lot on the state level that we can do. These gas prices are a direct result of the conflicts overseas and the inability of imports to come in the way they need to.
But the state charges over 40 cents a gallon in a gasoline tax and another 6.25% on top of that. So I mean, to just say the state has no role here, I mean that's a huge chunk of every gallon that the state's taking money out of.
Yeah, and all the money goes to jobs, economic development, and infrastructures, roads, bridges, and transit. As you know, prior to 2019, we had declining infrastructure, bridges that were getting ready to fall down or were being closed and couldn't be crossed. We're making inroads into getting our infrastructure up to speed, and unfortunately, that takes money. I indicated, Patrick, that I'd be willing to look at something temporarily. However, to say that the latest spike in gasoline is not a direct result of decisions that have been made in Washington is just not correct.
No, for sure, and I'll let you go here because I think it ties into the greater budget discussion, right? I think there are some concerns out there that one, what's happening in Iran is going to have global economic implications that neither you or I can fix, sitting here talking on StreamYard. But certainly if we're driven into recession, if the bottom falls out of the economy, that has long-lasting implication, wide-ranging implication, especially to the state budget, as you guys are trying to figure out what the heck is going to happen over the next year, in the next 7 weeks. How do you all craft a budget when we don't know what the environment is going to look like in 6 weeks, much less 6 months or a year?
Well, I would just say that certainly what is happening in Iran is going to have an impact long term on the amount of dollars that are going to come into the state because of the amount of federal dollars that are being taken away from the state. That was happening before the war, incidentally. In Washington, they were making decisions that were making it very difficult on states in order to just have certainty, because one day they're funding Meals on Wheels, the next day they're not. You see the president come out and say publicly that we have to fund wars. Well, we can't afford to do Medicare and Medicaid. We can't afford to help pay for daycare. Well, those are very important to people's lives, to their health care, making sure that they have access to good health care, whether they're in rural or urban areas. Individuals who want to go to work for a living, they have good quality daycare where they know that their child's going to be safe and affordable. It makes it really difficult when every week and almost every day there's another pronouncement from Washington as to what is going to be done and what is going to be cut. So we had to deal with it last legislative session. It was the administration was just getting off. The administration of Washington was just starting, yet we put money aside and gave the governor the ability to transfer dollars among funds in order to make ends meet in case something unexpected happens from the federal government and they don't provide the dollars they should be providing.
It seems like there's at least two schools of thoughts, maybe three in your caucus. I've had the progressives tell me, and there's some progressives tell me in the past that, we didn't get sent here for austerity. We got sent here to do things for people. There are the moderates that say, hey, we've got to, at least limit the growth in government or start cutting. And, my take on you is you're somewhere in between those two things. Yeah. How do you manage a really difficult caucus dynamic, which, again, fly on the wall. I'd love to see that fight sometime. But and we had this issue a couple of years ago. I remember you and I were walking down the hallway after everything kind of fell apart after a caucus meeting. Was that 2 years ago? I think that the budget fell apart at the last minute. So that dynamic hasn't gone away, if not gotten worse, with the additional budget pressures. How do you guys do this?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that our speaker makes it clear, and I believe he's totally right, that we need to stick together as a caucus. We all come from different areas. We all have different ideas. We all have been grown up in different environments. So respecting everyone's opinion and their thoughts is so vitally important. Yet, I think it is important that we recognize that passing a balanced budget and keeping our fiscal house in order and continuing to have the credit agencies look at Illinois favorably is important for not only now, but the next generations, while at the same time, we can do things in tough budget years. It's harder in when less money is coming in, but at the same time, we should be mindful on how to do things better, how to provide what my friends in the Progressive Caucus would say, provide services for individuals who need it most, and make sure that we actually are running a government that is caring, creates jobs and economic opportunity, but at the same time is fiscally responsible. So those, I guess I reiterated the question you were asking, Patrick, but that is the way you frame that's the yin and yang and the tug and the pull in any budget negotiations, and quite frankly, truly within our ranks.
Representative Jay Hoffman, Democrat from Swansea, Dean of the House now, right? You're the old guy around there nowadays?
I'm not the oldest, the longest serving.
Yeah, certainly not the oldest. Yeah, Paul Jacobs would have something to say about that. Representative, thanks for the time, and we'll see you around the State House soon.
Thank you. Good seeing you again, Patrick. Thank you.
All right, thanks to Leader Jay Hoffman. Thanks to Representative Dan Ugaste for joining us. Good conversation with those two. Appreciate them taking time with us. And it's going to be an interesting stretch run here between now and the end of May to see how everything gets done. It's kind of landing the plane while building it all at the same time. Just another year in Springfield. We'll talk to you again soon on the Illinoize podcast.